Thanks for joining us today. I'm Sabrina. I'm your host today. I'm with Savior Properties. We had one of these last times, and just in case you don't know who we are, we're a real estate company, and our purpose is people. And I have Mr. Cimarron Gilson with us today. He's an attorney with the Gilson Law Firm, and he'll be speaking with us today about wills, probate, and power of attorneys, and what that means for your home, when you're gone. And so before we get into that though, I want to make sure that you guys like, comment, and share this live video. And when you do share, you have a chance to win this $40 Visa gift card, as well as a free financial power of attorney, which is a value of $160, which is pretty awesome. And so we want to say thank you to Mr. Cimarron for that. Okay, so Cimarron, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, well, Sabrina, first I want to thank you and Savior Properties for letting me come onto your program today and to share with the community some really important information about wills, POAs, probate, and how that affects your real estate, your property. So I'm really thankful for the opportunity. My name's Cimarron. I have a private law practice in the Cibolo Schertz area, and I have been a member of the community for about 25 years, the northeast side of San Antonio. I've grown up here, and I live out in Schertz. I am the youngest of 7 brothers, okay, and my mom is from South Texas. My dad's from Ohio. Military brought them together, Military City, USA. That's what it does for a lot of families.
Yes.
And so that's a little bit about myself, and I can't forget that I am recently married. And
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And my wife is a veterinarian at Lincoln Heights Animal Hospital.
Aww.
So all you pet lovers, be sure to go visit Lincoln Heights Animal Hospital and see my wife, Dr. Mallory.
Awesome.
And I have a little baby girl, 5-month-old baby girl,
Aww.
first child. So it's a little bit about myself.
How sweet, how cute. I hope your wife and your 5-month-old baby girl is watching right now. So how come, or what made you get into law, and more specifically into estate planning?
It's a good question. Lawyering, going to law school is a difficult thing. Why would somebody engage in that? Well, being a lawyer, despite all the bad reputation that some may have, it's really a phenomenal opportunity to serve the public, serve the community. And I've always been interested in laws, in government, and politics, how the laws shape how we live our lives, how they affect us. So being a lawyer is a nice job to have, because I'm in the office helping people, whether it's estate planning, helping them to plan for some difficult moments or incapacity, death. I'm helping families preserve everything they've worked their entire lives for. And for many of them, the biggest asset they have is their home. And with some good planning,
very true.
With some good planning, we can save those assets, preserve them for the next generation.
Yes.
It's not difficult, but it just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of planning, and I enjoy helping the community in that regard.
Awesome. Well, you're definitely in the right place, because, again, our purpose is people, and we love to help and serve our community as well. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get right on into these questions. Again, share this video for your chance to win this $40 Visa gift card and the free financial power of attorney, because that'll be great for you. Cimarron, most people, or maybe it's just me, we don't really know too much about estate planning, so we'll start off with some of the basics. What exactly is a will?
What is a will? Well, fortunately, the public at large is pretty familiar with the term will, or last will and testament, and almost everybody knows they should have one, but
Yes.
most people don't get one. And what a will is really your last say-so, your last instructions to your family and to the world about who's going to get all the stuff that I own in my life? When I die, who's getting it all? And who's going to be in charge of giving it all
And
away?
of course, the favorite always thinks that they're going to get everything right.
That happens, yeah. But a will is a simple written document, usually, and I recommend this, that you do it with a lawyer. It's a written document where you instruct or write down your plan. Who's going to get what? And how
Okay,
much.
so say we don't do it with the lawyer and we just kind of write out what we want. Does that still work, or what?
It's a good question. Some people want to be thrifty. Maybe they're going on a trip or vacation. They don't have a time to go see a lawyer. So I would recommend, if you're going on a vacation soon and you don't have time to see the attorney before you go on vacation, a handwritten will is okay.
Okay.
It'll work. It can be probated. It can do what you need it to do. It may not have all the terms and provisions that a lawyer drafted will have.
Yes.
But in an emergency, that'll work.
Okay, awesome. So if somebody wills a house to me, is it just mine now? Like they already wrote down what they wanted. They want me to have their house, so it's just mine. I could do whatever I want with it. And if that means I want to sell it, I can just go ahead and sell it?
That's a great question, and the answer simply is no, that's not how it works. But that is probably the biggest misconception that people have, is once a will is written and signed by the person whose will it is, that's it. The person has spoken, and it's done. But that's not really how it works. A will is a piece of paper. That's it. And it doesn't have any power behind it until you take that will to a judge, a probate judge, and prove that that will was properly signed by somebody with capacity, wasn't coerced. And so then the judge, upon hearing all that evidence, is going to say, yeah, this is a valid, authentic will, or no, this is a fraudulent will. So when you see a will after your loved one dies, it's not automatically the case that just because they have a will, you read it and follow the instructions. No. You've got to take it to a probate attorney to review the whole circumstance. And then you may end up having to take it to a judge. And that whole process of going before a judge in a court, that's called the probate process. And probate. And there's different ways to do it, but it usually involves a court process. And then sometimes you can do it without a court. But when you have a will, the will doesn't mean anything until you take it to a judge and get it approved by the court.
Okay, so just to clarify, probate is an action that we have to do when someone passes and they have left a will.
Correct. It's an action or it's a process. It's a process for figuring out who are the beneficiaries or the heirs of the deceased person. What is their assets? What are their debts, the valid debts who have to be paid off? And then distributing. And it's a very transparent legal process. It's simple. In Texas, it's a very simple process.
Okay.
As simple as it is, you shouldn't do it on your own, really. You should have the guidance of an attorney to help walk you through the process.
Okay, so if somebody leaves me a will to be in charge of this will, what then do I have to do with that?
That's a good question. I've had a lot of people call in on the phone to my office and they tell me, my mom or dad has passed away and they had a will and I'm the executor and I've given the car away, I'm trying to sell the house, and I quickly have to stop them and say, well, have you been appointed by the court as an executor? And many times they have not been, and so they really can't sell the house or can't sell the car, at least legally. And that's where we start to talk about what do they need to do. If you're named in a will as an executor, what steps do you need to take? And to answer your question, see a probate attorney.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask following up. That's still part of the probate process.
That's kind of where it begins.
Okay, awesome. So what happens if somebody passes and they didn't leave a will? Like, what happens to the house, who gets it, or any of our belongings? Like, what happens then?
That's another good question. Glad you asked it. And the answer to that is, if you don't have a will, And believe it or not, most Americans, most Texans, they die without a will, right? Because people, it's one of those things where you know you got to do it, but you don't ever really get around to doing it. It's a big procrastinated thing, but
and it's not a happy situation either.
Correct.
Oh,
some
man.
folks don't like to think about dying.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit superstitious sometimes people can be. But if you don't have a will, the probate process can still handle your estate, handle your belongings and your properties, and you can still work through that process. It's just going to cost more money.
Oh, no.
Involve more time, and in a situation where not everybody is cooperating with each other, family members don't cooperate with each other, it can be contentious and difficult. And so there's a way. I mean, the state legislature has planned for the vast majority of people who don't do planning, right?
Yeah.
And they've made a way possible. It's just more of a headache when you don't have a will written down for you. That's what happens. There's a way out. There's a way to do it.
Gotcha. So you're saying that it's better to have a will than to not have one for your family's sake.
It absolutely is. That is a no-brainer. It's advisable that if you're an adult, if you're 18 or above, you should have a simple will at a minimum.
Okay.
And you should have a durable power of attorney for financial matters, quite possibly then also for medical matters. You can be in college and not own anything besides your car.
Okay.
And you should still have a power of attorney or a simple will.
Okay, I was about to ask, because you said 18, and I'm like, well, I'm pretty young myself, and I don't really own anything too much, but I guess definitely get going on that on my part, huh?
Yeah, just imagine the situation. You're driving in your car, and you get into a horrible car accident, and you're in the hospital. Who's going to make those medical decisions for you?
Gotcha.
That's
so
where
it's not just based off of the possessions we own, but
right.
Okay.
Yeah, and you probably have a checking account or a small bank account, and if your parents aren't on it, they can't touch it. If you're sick in the hospital, unless they have a power of attorney.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe you're walking down Walmart or at your favorite place to shop, and you get hurt, right? Really bad. Maybe your family wants to sue for you, right? Well, you're injured, so you can't sue. So if you name somebody as your power of attorney, they can sue for you. Okay,
so get me a power of attorney. Got it. Okay. Awesome. So again, I just want to remind everyone to share this video, because you will have a chance to win this $40 Visa gift card and a free financial power of attorney, which obviously is very important for everyone 18 and over, and that is a value of $160, so you can save yourself that money. So share this video, and yes, it'll be great. Next question: if an elderly person is thinking about applying for Medicaid, what will the government take away their home if they pass, or how does that process work?
So that's important. A lot of you who are watching probably have an elderly parent or a grandparent, and most elderly people are going to need something called long-term care. You might understand it to be nursing home care or assisted living. The great majority of people that are over 65 years old are going to need long-term care. And one of the things most of us don't realize is that our health insurance does not cover long-term care. Our supplemental plans don't cover it. And even Medicare does not cover long-term care or nursing home. So if you're in that population group, or one of your parents or grandparents is approaching that stage in their life where they need round-the-clock care or skilled nursing care, and you don't have another way or a lot of money in the bank to pay for it, you are more likely going to be applying for Medicaid. Medicaid is it's a federal program to that will pay for your skilled nursing care. And it's only available to low-income elderly people or disabled people.
Okay.
And the thing with applying for Medicaid is you got to qualify. You got to be poor, and you got to be disabled. You got to need that long-term care. And it's a frequent question that I hear about in my office from concerned family members, and they want to know, and they've heard what you asked. They've heard Medicaid or the government's going to take away mom's house.
Yeah.
You know, how do we protect the house? Because that, again, is probably the largest asset for most families is their home.
Of course.
And there is a way to protect your home from Medicaid recovery, estate recovery program. It's called MERP. MERP.
What is MERP?
Medicaid Estate Recovery Program. That's that program that comes in, and if they spent any money on long-term care for your loved one, they can file a creditor claim against the estate. Usually against the house is really the only thing left standing. And there's ways to protect the home. And I can share with you some of those ways if you're interested.
Yes, that'd be great. I think I'd love to, and I'm sure tons of other people would love to. Considering, you know, a lot of us do have those elderly parents, grandparents, and those houses mean something to us.
Yeah, well, here's some of the ways. One of the easiest, quickest, most inexpensive ways is to sign a deed that gives your home to your loved one, to your children, upon your death. Okay. So it can be called a transfer on death deed, or a TOD, transfer on death deed, or a ladybird deed. And either one of those two deeds will protect your home from the Medicaid Estate Recovery Program. And it's a very simple thing to do. It's very inexpensive. You meet with an attorney to draft that deed up. Of course, you got to know who you want to leave it to, but most of the time we do. We know who we're leaving our homes to. And that's one way to do it. And that's probably the way to do it if you're worried about Medicaid.
So I do have a follow-up question to that. It's if they do this, is that very similar to having a will, or how is that different?
It's very different. It's very different. So a will is going to pass all your assets, your properties, once you die.
Okay.
Of course, you got to go through that probate process for that will to do its job.
Okay.
But a deed is something that you can sign during your lifetime. Okay. And it takes immediate effect in that the deed is already effective. Okay. And then when you die, there's no will to probate that house. There's no process to probate that house. Okay. Because the deed already transferred it.
Okay, makes sense. So the will is because the person obviously is not here. They can't speak for themselves, so it has to go through that process. The deed. Okay, I got it.
And just to clarify, that kind of deed, it gives away that house to your loved one only upon your death, right? So as long as you're living, you own it. You can rent it, you can sell it, you can even change your mind and give it to somebody else. You can take a loan against it. It's a very helpful, flexible document.
That's awesome. I really didn't know that. It's great. Okay, so if a spouse passes, don't they automatically get the house, or the living spouse, don't they get the house, or how does that not
I want to answer that question after I tell you a story about this ladybird deed, transfer deed.
Go ahead.
I had an elderly woman and her daughter come into my office, and they asked for a general estate planning consultation. I looked at their situation. It was a single woman with a house, car, bank accounts, and life insurance. And that's what most people have. And we were able to do some planning that in the event of her death would actually avoid the whole necessity for probating, for a probate process. Okay. And sadly, that lady died a couple days ago. Oh. Her daughter came back into my office and was concerned. She had remembered the deed. Didn't we sign a deed? And we looked up the information in our files, and we found out, we did do a ladybird deed. And we reviewed the rest of the file in about 5 or 10 minutes. And it was good news that we were able to basically transfer everything that lady owned.
Mm-hmm.
We did it during lifetime, or we set it
Yeah.
up. We set up a plan during lifetime.
So she didn't have to go through the probate. It was simple, it was easy, and she could take that time to mourn her
Yeah.
mother. Wow, that's
And that's what
really,
she's
really
doing.
amazing.
She's dealing with funeral, the
Yeah.
family, grieving, and she's not having to worry about,
That's-
going to the courthouse and paying more legal fees and all that. We took
Yeah.
care of it.
That's awesome.
And
That's so
it's
awesome
something
to
that can
hear.
be done with some estate planning.
Yeah. That is so great. I really had no idea. I really thought that you just have to get a will and you just deal with it later.
Yeah. It's not
Okay.
like that. But to answer your question that you were asking about the spouse, right?
Okay, yes.
So most people get married. They
Yeah.
buy a house together.
Mm-hmm.
And they spend 30 years paying it off,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when your spouse dies, this is probably the second greatest misconception that I encounter in my law practice.
Okay.
And that is people will come into my office and they'll say, hey, my deceased spouse, their name's on the title, so they already own it. Or I own it. It's a joint property, right?
Yeah.
So I inherit it, right? And I'm saying, well, technically, maybe you do inherit it, but nobody knows that. The world doesn't know it. Certainly nothing in the real estate records of the local county will reflect that you now own your deceased spouse's community interest in your home or separate interest in the home.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing where it just doesn't automatically happen.
Yeah, and you would think it would. I mean, you bought the house together.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
people are thinking, I jointly own this property
Yes.
with somebody, so when they die, I survive, and I get it. Maybe that's the case, but in this day and age with more blended families, second
Yeah.
and third marriages, if there's children from another relationship and your spouse dies and he has children from another relationship,
Okay.
you don't automatically get that house. His children get that half the house. You keep your half. And so there's things that we need to do to avoid that situation. But assuming you have the traditional family,
Yeah.
first marriage, and all your kids are from the same marriage relationship, the spouse is going to inherit the husband's part of the house.
Okay.
But we got to do something. We got to sign some legal document
Saying that it does belong to you.
Yeah.
And only you know.
that will show that to the world, and then you record that at the property records downtown. And then now everybody knows, okay, my spouse died,
Yeah.
and I'm the husband or wife, and I've inherited that person's part of the house. Then you can sell your house or do what you want to do with your house, right? Now you're free to do that. And sadly, a lot of surviving spouses, they don't figure that out until they're already in the process
Yeah.
of selling a home.
Oh, wow.
Right? Maybe they put it on the market, they've got an interested buyer who's under contract, and then title company gets involved.
Yeah.
They do research of the title, and then they find out, well, what happened to your spouse who owns half the house? Where are they? Well, they died. Well, did you probate anything? No, because I'm on the title. And then that's usually when that kind of person comes to my office because they've been told,
Yeah.
the sale is on pause until they
So then
cure.
what do they have to do from there? Or can you tell us a scenario, maybe if it was a blended family or even if it was a traditional family, but they didn't know and it didn't come up until they try to sell the house, like what is that process like?
That's the probate process, right?
Okay.
So you would talk to the probate attorney. Obviously, your sale's on pause, and hopefully you don't lose your buyer.
Oh,
hopefully you can still close.
Yeah.
But you need to speak to a probate attorney who's going to tell you what your options are. It
Okay.
doesn't cost anything really to get that knowledge. What are my options?
Okay.
It might cost a small consult fee with some attorneys. Some of them are free. But you need to find out what your options are.
Okay.
And then there's a process. If it's a traditional family, it's going to go a lot smoother because the law favors that traditional family, and the law is going to help that process go smoother
Okay.
to that spouse who survives. But in the blended family, with stepchildren and other children, there's a process, and really, if you're gonna have a successful sale or transfer of your home, you really need the cooperation of all those children.
And sometimes there's not.
Sometimes there's not. And if I can share a story about that, it's a sad
do.
story, but these stories kind of illustrate how this really plays out in real life. And so, and this goes to really why I got involved in wills and probate as a practice area. So personal story is my grandmother married, and my grandfather, it was their second marriage. Be it 40-something years of marriage, it was the only grandparents I knew, really. But when my step-grandpa died in a colonia in South Texas, and all that they had to their name was a mobile home and a very small piece of land, not much money in the bank, he had no will, he had no POA, he had no plan, but he did have children from the first marriage. So his bride of 47 years, that's my grandma, she's grieving the loss of her husband, and she comes to find out that she doesn't own her mobile home or her land 100%. And who does she have to talk to work that out? The stepchildren that maybe are not on good terms. And in this case, they hadn't spoken, and they didn't have that care for my grandma like I did. So it took 14 months and a few $1,000s to finally convince two people to sell their portion back to my grandma so that she could have 100% of her own home. And that really could have been avoided. And that happened when I was in probably college. And that showed me that, you don't have to be rich. You don't have to own a lot of property to have an estate plan, But it's the folks who maybe can least afford to lose what they have are oftentimes the people who don't know to get a plan. They don't know what to do. They don't know what the law says. And that's why a video like this is informative. If you're watching and you don't have a will or an estate plan, you're learning now some of what can happen when you fail to plan. And it could be costly more for a low-income family or a modest family than it can be for the wealthy. So it got me inspired. I said, it's this group of people like my grandparents, people like the folks that live in their neighborhood in that colonia. They need to know what they don't know. And they need someone who can help serve their needs, their legal needs. And that's what got me inspired to do estate planning. That story is my inspiration still today.
Well, that's awesome, and I'm glad your grandma came through it. But just to kind of back up a little bit, you said it can be prevented. How can it be prevented before somebody's death? Like if it was a blended family, how can something like that be prevented?
To prevent something like that, you really want to get a written estate plan prepared.
Okay. And what is an estate plan?
An estate plan, kind of how I define it, it's a written plan that manages your wealth during your lifetime in case of incapacity. And it helps distribute your wealth upon death, after you die. And that's a basic definition of estate planning. Well,
again, we want you guys to like this post in our comments, but definitely share it, because that is the most important thing in order for you to get your chance to win this $40 Visa gift card and that free financial power of attorney, which is a value of $160. And we definitely are learning now that these kinds of things are super important to have for your family, for yourself, if you end up in the hospital or incapacitated. So yes, share. So
are the folks that are watching and following us live, are they going to have an opportunity maybe to type in a question or send in some questions?
Yes, that's good. So at the end of this video, you guys will have an opportunity to ask our special guest attorney your own questions. So if I missed something maybe maybe that you have questions about, you can definitely type in your question. You can start typing now, matter of fact, and we'll get to them after all of my questions because I'm the host.
And I just want to put a friendly announcement, right? That I'm a local attorney, and I am providing a free seminar to the public at St. John Neumann Catholic Church on June 2nd. It's a Saturday, 10 o'clock in the morning to 11:30. And St. John Newman's is at 6680 Crestway here in San Antonio. It's free. It's open to the public. All I ask is that your listeners, if they want to come to that seminar, that you just call into my office and let us know you're coming so we know that we have enough space for everybody. And how you do that is call my office at 210-566-6700. 566-6700. And at this hour-and-a-half seminar, you're going to get a whole lot more information about this whole process, right? Wills, trusts, powers of attorney, advance directives, what happens if I get sick, what about guardianship. We're going to discuss all that, and there'll be some door prizes we're giving away as well. And just want people to know anybody is welcome to come to that. And I do them regularly. I give seminars regularly. It's my way of sharing with the community that knowledge, right? It doesn't cost anything to give that knowledge, but for those who receive it, it can be very valuable and helpful. And that's really my goal, is to help people like those who are watching avoid the headaches, the heartaches, the expenses that failing the plan can bring about. Yeah. And with just a little bit of time on a Saturday morning, you can get that knowledge and avoid a lot of this headache, right? We can plan ahead. That's what God wants us to be good stewards of everything that we got and everything we worked for. Yes. And simple way is just to plan, whether it's insurance or auto, house, all these kind of insurances. Well, this is like an insurance plan on your life after death or when you get sick.
With that being said, his seminar information, we'll leave that in the comments for you later on. So you have the address and the phone number, again, just in case you missed it or you didn't write it down. I know you can rewind this later, but we'll leave it in the comments for you. So you can click and it'll be in your maps. Okay, so we went over pretty much a lot so far. Thank you so much for that. So people should start estate planning as soon as they can. We had a question come in, and it's speaking of, I know I said later, but speaking of, just real quick, kind of it ties into what if somebody is low income, and how did they start estate planning? Like,
good question. Yeah, we don't want to overlook that. That's a good question. So, it's probably the elephant in the room. Attorneys charge money, right? And if you're low income, how are you going to pay for that attorney, that professional advice? How are you going to do that? Well, let me give you, your public, the people that are watching, and the person who asked that question. Let me give them an answer. There are some pro bono wills clinics. Okay. Our local law school, St. Mary's University Law School, they will often have a wills clinic where attorneys come in and volunteer their time for low-income residents of the area.
Wow, that's awesome.
ACOG, the Alamo Area Council of Governments, has a senior program. So if you're a senior citizen and you have low income, you can get referred out through that program to an attorney who's volunteering their time. I used to be a part of that, and I helped a lot of senior citizens through that program. Awesome. There's also, you just got to look out for those seminars, those clinics. Okay. And then if you know an attorney, it doesn't hurt to ask them, hey, can you help me out? Something that I do in my practice is not forgetting the people like my grandparents. Yeah. And so when somebody comes in and I see on their paper, on their questionnaire, that they're really low income or low resources, I'll do what I can to help them, to discount them. But it's, despite the cost, it may be difficult to pay an attorney to do that, but it really is worthwhile. Yeah. When it's kind of like everything else in the world. If it's worthwhile, if it costs money, it's usually worth it. Your plumbing breaks down, you're going to pay the plumber. If your electric goes out, you're going to hire the electrician. And if you really want to protect what you've worked your long life for, it's worth getting that counsel. And sometimes with a 1-hour consultation, we can cover a lot of ground and give that person a lot of advice.
Yeah.
And that's certainly less expensive than maybe a formal estate plan. And in some cases, like that story I mentioned at the top of the show of the mother who came in, we were able to devise a plan for very low cost.
Okay. That's
And
awesome.
a lot of the stuff is something that you can do on your own.
Yeah.
And let me give you some ideas, or give
Okay.
the people some ideas. This is some of the things that you can do right now without even having seen an attorney, except you're seeing one now. Right? But this is something you can do right now, or tomorrow, this weekend. You can spend some time. If you're married, you want to get as much of your assets and your accounts to be owned jointly with your spouse with rights of survivorship. That's really important, and it's really easy. So with your bank accounts, your investment accounts, even your home, we've got to talk about this right of survivorship agreement for your home.
Yes.
You can leave everything to your spouse directly without going through probate, simply by designating them as a beneficiary.
Okay.
Or making them rights of survivorship, giving them rights of survivorship.
Okay.
You do that with your bank account representative, right, at the bank. You do that with your investment broker, right? You fill out some forms online if you own stock. Your life insurances, you name beneficiaries.
Okay.
Your cars even, believe it or not, this is kind of interesting. When you have your title to your car, at the very bottom is a right of survivorship agreement that spouses can sign, and nobody ever signs those titles. They're always blank. And so that's the first thing I tell people to do when they see me is, give me your titles and let me show you where to sign.
Yeah.
And boom, we've taken care of a car.
Yeah.
Or your cars.
And that's something that they can do on their own, like you said, and it's
Free.
free.
Yeah. Just take your
And
time.
everybody loves free stuff, right? Which brings me back to my next point. Share for this free pretty much $40 because it's a Visa gift card, and a free financial power of attorney valued at $160. Wow, that's a lot of savings. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing all that with us. What exactly is a power of attorney, and are there different kinds? I know you said get a power of attorney, make sure that they can sign everything for you, but is there something more in depth, or is there different types?
No, a lot of people are also familiar with power of attorney, and they kind of vaguely understand that it's a document that I can sign where I appoint somebody else to sign my name, make decisions for me, kind of step into my shoes when I need that to happen. And when might I need that to happen? Well, sometimes it's an accident and you end up in rehab for several months. Sometimes you're just simply out of town and you need to sign some paperwork, so you appoint someone to sign. Here's a good example. I'm buying a home with my wife in about 2 weeks, and she works on the day that we're closing. And a busy job at the veterinary hospital, right? So she can't really break away from her job to sign all that mountain of papers, right, for closing.
Okay.
So she's named me as her power of attorney.
Okay.
And I can sign her name and sign all those closing documents for her.
Awesome.
And so she's okay. Nothing's wrong with her, but she's just at work.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to make it more convenient for her.
That's really awesome. See, that I would have never guessed that. I would have just thought, I have to be laying in the hospital bed, can't move, can't blink or anything, and I need a power of attorney.
No, that power of attorney often comes into play when you're selling a home.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
Because one spouse is at work or they're out of town on job, and the other spouse has to sign for both names, and so it comes across in your line of work too.
Yeah.
And that can be that durable general power of attorney, and that's what we're giving away.
Okay.
The door prize or the free prize. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a durable power of attorney, and that's where you appoint someone to manage all your affairs when you can't.
Okay.
And that's what we're giving away, right?
Yeah. Awesome. So is there any different kind of, okay.
Yeah, there's another kind. It's called a medical power of attorney.
Okay.
Right? So, yeah, obviously if you can't communicate with your doctors because you're incapacitated, you're in a coma, you can't make that decision.
Yeah.
The doctors want to know if you have signed a medical power of attorney.
Okay.
Naming probably your spouse, maybe your adult children, maybe your boyfriend, girlfriend, somebody to make medical treatment decisions for you as you would have made them on your behalf. And really that can be really important.
Yeah.
Maybe there's somebody in your family you don't want to be making those decisions, right? And so you can actually exclude people from making those kinds of decisions.
Wow.
Or you don't name them, right?
Yeah.
You name somebody else. I've seen that happen. And the hospitals provide that power of attorney. Here's a giveaway. I can charge you money to do one, but any local hospital is going to provide a free medical power of attorney and something called an advance directive, which is really deals with a very end-of-life situation. People don't want to be on life support, something like that. That's an advance directive. So there's these two medical documents that play together, and the hospitals will usually provide those if you're an inpatient. I always tell people, just go ask. Go to the hospital nearby and ask for it. They should give it to you. And you just save yourself about $200 of attorney's fees. And so that's something that you can plan and do on your own.
Okay, awesome. Again, thank you so much. You've been such a great help in teaching me so much, and I'm sure so many others so much. Again, share this video. We're going to kind of start wrapping it up and taking on some questions. So if you have questions that you want to ask, please feel free to. But while y'all are doing that, I just want you to say one of the main reasons why all of this is so important. Like, what to you is the most important reason to do all of this?
The most important reason is to give yourself peace of mind. That's what everybody tells me is, I want to do this to I want some peace of mind knowing that I have arranged for my affairs to be dealt with so that my loved ones who I leave behind, they don't get saddled with who do I talk to, where do I go, who's going to pay for the funeral, what do I do? You've created a plan that they can simply execute and follow. And actually it's a way also to maintain some peace. You hear the horror stories of when grandma died and the family starts fighting over property. You can avoid that by saying, you get that, you don't get that. And peace of mind is what most people tell me. And for me, I want to save people that headache, that expense, that time, anything that's unnecessary, anything that I can do to help avoid that for people. That's what I want to help people do, is avoid all that. If you can avoid it, let's try to do that. We don't need to have extra stress or problems in our life.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we're gonna, I think we had one question that says, does a power of attorney automatically get the house when you die?
No, here's the thing. With a power of attorney, it's only useful during that person's lifetime.
Okay.
So when the homeowner dies, that power of attorney that they had written appointing their child as their POA, that's no longer powerful. It dies with the person. And so then that will or whatever other plan you might have had, that's what kicks into gear, so to speak.
Awesome.
And is there any other questions that have come in?
We have one more question, and this is a very general. It's is this in a state attorney in Corpus Christi? Do you go out that far? Or
somebody's interested in services in Corpus?
Yeah.
Well, interestingly, I don't get out to Corpus all that often, right? It's quite a drive, but I am helping somebody whose parent died in Corpus Christi, and I'm helping that person do the probate process in Nueces County.
Okay.
And so we've got a hearing in 2 weeks in Nueces County.
Okay.
I've got a friend who's an attorney in Corpus, and so he's helping me. I've done all the work and the paperwork and the filing, and my client's going to go down there, meet up with my friend there, and he's going to walk him into court and help. So I don't do it a whole lot, but in some cases, if it's something that's not going to be prolonged and complicated, I can help. Otherwise, it's probably best to find a probate attorney in the area, in the county, where your loved one has died. That would probably be the best thing to do.
Or an estate planning.
Yeah, an estate planning or probate attorney
Okay.
in the county where the deceased person died. Certainly you can meet with someone here if that's where you live, if that's where the questioner lives, to get some advice. But to do the process, go to the local county.
Okay. So we just want to give a few shout outs to people that are watching right now. We have Brenda. Hi, Brenda. Thank you so much for watching. And Priscilla and Kathy. You guys are great. I'm sure there's many more who are watching or going to be watching. And we say thank you so much for watching. Again, share this video to get this free $40 Visa gift card, as well as a free financial power of attorney, which is a value of $160. Did you want to mention again your...
Yeah, just for those who maybe have just joined the program and started watching it in the last few minutes, I regularly provide a free estate planning seminar open to the public. I usually do it at various Catholic churches or organizations, and I'm happy to provide those to any organization that your viewers have or are part of. You want me to come to your church and have a free seminar, I'll do it. I'm happy to do that. And the next one that I'm doing is at St. John Neumann Catholic Church, not too far from your office here at Savior Properties. It's at 6680 Crestway in San Antonio, and that's on June 2nd, 10 to 11:30 in the morning. And to attend that, just RSVP at 210-566-6700. That's my office phone number. We'll put you on the reservation list and make sure we have enough space for you. And we do those regularly. And it's a good morning with door prizes, with snacks, with Q&A. People really appreciate those seminars, and it makes it easy for me to go back out there and do it again and again.
Awesome. That's so great to hear. And we have something pretty special in a couple weeks also, or maybe it's a week and a half. We're going to be on Impact Radio May 20th at 2:30 p.m. So listen in for our fun, informative stuff on the radio. It's going to be 1100 a.m. Again, that's Impact Radio May 20th at 2:30 p.m. Well, I think we've had a pretty great time here. You answered so many good questions. Again, one more time before we go, share this video to win this $40 Visa gift card and the free financial power of attorney. We're going to hold the drawing live on Facebook Friday at 3 p.m. So keep sharing until then, or actually keep sharing until Thursday, 5 p.m. We'll make that the cutoff time, and then we'll do our live drawing Friday at 3 p.m. Thank you so much, Simran, for coming and joining us. It was so great and so fun being here with you.
Absolutely. Thanks. It was a pleasure, and thank you for everybody who's watching. Really enjoyed the time to spend with you this evening. Thank you for watching.
Awesome. Bye, guys.